So this is a kind of a tutorial on how to build your own arc reactor, do-it-yourself arc reactor. This one is wearable, so there's velcro on the back, and you can put another piece of velcro on your chest and actually stick it to your chest. It's nice and thin, so you can actually wear it for Halloween or whatever. It's 2032 3-volt button battery. And so this is what it looks like when you light it up. So to start out, follow the link that I include with the video and print off this template for the arc reactor. I got this template from another YouTube tutorial, and it works pretty good. I didn't follow any other specific tutorial perfectly. I kind of took bits and pieces from many different tutorials and other stuff to make a design that I wanted and what I was looking for. But I did print this out for starters because I think it's pretty good, and you should check out this other tutorial. I don't mean to rip off anybody else's ideas or designs. I think they're great, and I want you to check them out as well. So I'll try and link to that. And but this you take this printout and you can take the file. What I did is I put it in Photoshop and hit print and typed in 86% of the original size, and then I printed at this 86% original size. And the reason I did that is because the other thing you'll need when you make this arc reactor, the one that I made, is I used this bracelet mold that I got off eBay. So you pour casting epoxy and resin in it, and then you can then get out a mold out of it for like a bracelet, but I'll use it for the arc reactor here for this ring around the outside for my LEDs to glow through. And what I did is I bought this size and I printed this out at 86% original size to match up with this bracelet mold, so that it's this perfect size. And then once I did that, then I can follow this whole template for all my sizes of things. And so the bracelet mold, the size that I got, is get a ruler here. It's 2 1/4 inch inner diameter. So the inner diameter of it is 2 1/4 inch, and the it's 5/8 inch wide and 1/8 inch thick. So there's this dimension, the thickness, and the dimension of how wide it is. So that's the one that I bought. You can get them on eBay. There are lots of different sizes, and I liked this size. So you can line that up. The epoxy and resin, it looks like this. I bought this on Amazon. They might also have it on eBay. Maybe you can get something else too, but this is this clear casting epoxy and resin. You're also going to need the battery holder from RadioShack. It's a 2032 battery holder, maybe 22 gauge solid wire from RadioShack. You can get stranded, but I got the solid wire from RadioShack. The LEDs, you'll want to follow my link that I'll put with the video. I got my LEDs from uniqueleds.com, I think it is what it is. And they have lots of different sizes. So this is this 1206 surface mount top LED. They're also known as SMDs, I believe, surface mount diodes. I got the blue ones, and They're really tiny. There's actually, inside here there's this strip, and there's 60 of them is what I got, but you only need 11 to make the arc reactor. You need 11 LEDs, but you might want to get a couple extra, get like 12 or 13, because you can accidentally burn it out when you're building it, and so you want to have a couple extra LEDs. Some other things you'll need. I got this 24 gauge copper colored wrapping wire. You'll need 2 of these keyring variety packs from Home Depot or Lowe's. You'll need Velcro, peel and stick industrial strength Velcro from Home Depot or Lowe's. But they're called socket cap screws. I like the way they look. So yeah, there's these ones. As far as the sizes go, this is probably what I'll use for this build. Last time I used this slightly smaller stainless steel one, and you can read the size off here. It's like number 6, 32 by 1/2. This is in metric. You can get the size there. And then there's even these other stainless steel larger ones if you wanted, that are 10/24 by 1/2. But you'll need 3 of whatever screws that you decide to use. So here I had to get a pack because there's 2 and 2. This you'll need is a 3-inch PVC cleanout adapter is what it's called. Bulsa wood from Michaels. This is the information for that. Some foam from Michaels. This is like approximately a 1/4 inch thick black foam. You'll need some of that. And then you'll need some other thinner foam, like this is like maybe 1/8 inch or even thinner. Strong cardboard. I'm probably going to use this scrap cardboard I have from when I bought this breadboard from this IC breadboard socket from RadioShack. Some other thing you'll need is some piece of metal. I don't know, stainless steel or aluminum or something. This is a random little piece of metal that actually came with this breadboard. You'll need some metallic or metal colored paint, some black paint. I got some gold paint, big roll of window screen at my house from a project, so I just use a little piece of that, but maybe you can find a broken screen around your house or something, take a little piece off. I don't know if it's, or maybe they sell a really small amount of screen. You only need the tiniest amount. So talking about tools that you might use, a big one is a Dremel tool. So an actual drill, drill bits, some tin snips. These are wire strippers. These are just different pliers and cutters and things I have. You'll need an X-Acto knife or a utility knife, soldering iron from RadioShack, glue gun, and this is some flux, which helps solder to stick. This is the actual solder. This I didn't use last time, but I'm going to try it this time. It's a hole punch in the shape of this rectangle. Other than that, just maybe some electrical tape and some super glue, and should be good. So to start out with, we'll create the clear ring around the outside that will have LEDs glowing on them. I'm going to make it with this casting epoxy. You could maybe cut it out of plexiglass and stack up layers if you wanted. I'm not good with cutting plexiglass. I'm gonna go ahead and use this. So inside there's this resin and hardener, and what we're going to do is mix them together half and half. I'm not really sure how much I need, I'm just winging it here. Nope, looks like I mixed enough. Something else we can check the size is this 3-inch PVC cleanout adapter. When we hold that up to it, we see that this inner ring is going to fit perfectly inside that cleanout adapter. However you want to look at it. Alright, so the next thing we can do, we could take our balsa wood and this 3-inch PVC cleanout adapter, put it down, and trace the inside. Hard to tell, there we go. Got a circle there, and then I'll cut that out. And I want to kind of leave the line on there so that it's a little bit bigger, because it's easier to sand it down than it is to, you can't really add back on. You can use some sandpaper to clean it up a little bit. There we go. Now that's a really tight fit. Just what I want. Alright, now we need to cut out a center part where we're going to put our battery holder. And we have this button battery holder, and it fits in there pretty snug. We want a really thin profile so that we can wear it, and so there's actually no need to have these prongs sticking up, so we'll bend those over. And actually, to create an even more low profile, I'm gonna cut off these little bumps on it. All these little bumps, I'm gonna trim them down. And so we're gonna put an LED in between here, touching these two prongs, facing the right direction, and that LED will light up. And these LEDs, the reason I picked them out, they're 3-volt LEDs, and this is a 3-volt battery. So I'm gonna set it up without a resistor. Normally, anytime you put an LED in a project, you need a resistor. Keeps things from, fluctuations from getting to the LED and burning it out. And so even now, even though they're both 3 volts, I should still have a resistor in there, probably like a 1 ohm resistor or whatever. But I did it without resistors on my other one. It worked just fine. I haven't had any problems. And it allows a much simpler design. So no resistors. Alright, so I'm going to pull an LED out of this pack. And they're very tiny. So you don't want to drop one on the floor and lose it. Make sure you get some extras. Alright, you'll notice on your LED, when it comes into focus, there we go, is on one side of it has this green mark. That marks the negative end of the battery. So the negative end of the battery touches the side with the green mark, and the positive end of the battery touches the other side. If you hook it up the wrong way, you might burn it out, or it might not work at all. So try one out, make sure that you're hooking them up in the right direction. So I'm going to solder 2 little wires to the ends of this LED and then touch it to the proper sides of the battery and test it out. Okay, so you see here, I've soldered 2 wires, one to each end of the LED, and so the side with that green mark gets the negative end of the battery, and the other side the positive end of the battery. So we'll touch it to those and make sure that it works. And here's the button battery. Notice the plus side. Follow that prong to the other side. That's the plus prong. And so we're going to touch it to that and watch it light up. Okay, so I soldered one end to one prong and the other to the other prong. And that matches what I tested as far as positive and negative. So when I put this battery in, the LED should light up. And so it's lit all the time as long as that battery's in. So that's the on and off switch, is just taking the battery in and out. Alright, after we cut out the back plate out of the balsa wood and made the hole for the battery holder, we're just going to hit it with some spray paint, some dark color spray paint, like black or whatever you have, isn't a big deal. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is set up the LEDs that are going to go around this ring. And so you'll take this wire. I already have stripped some of the heat shield or whatever back but we'll need more. So you can use your wire strippers to grab it and strip, or if you needed to score it with your X-Acto knife or utility knife and then grab it and slide it off, you can do that. What we're going to do is shape this into a circle around this. So here we've laid out one copper ring, and now I'm going to make another one on the inside of it, smaller. So I want these rings to be the width of a LED apart, approximately, to make my soldering easy, because I'm going to put them, you'll see in just a minute how I'll put the LEDs between these rings. Okay, so here on the arc reactor layout we have two metal rings, two copper rings. Just like we made this LED for the button battery, where a positive and a negative have to touch the LED, we're going to make one of these rings negative and one positive, and then we can put an LED in between the two rings and they'll all line up. And as long as I line up the proper direction, I touch this positive prong to the outside ring, it becomes a positive ring, and I touch the negative side to the inner ring, becomes negative, and this LED should light up when I touch those. You can see it's lighting up. Okay, I'm going to continue soldering the LEDs in place, making sure that the negative and positive end of the battery are going to line up with the proper side of the LED. And so you can see here that this little mark of the LED, this is the back of the LED, this little mark represents negative end of the battery, and that's going to be the inner ring is going to touch the negative side of the battery. And then so the other side of this LED, this is going to be positive, it's going to touch the positive end of the battery. I've duct taped it, or I've electrical taped it in place so that things don't move around, and I've also have the template underneath it so I can kind of get an idea of where to put the LEDs. So there are 10 of them equally spaced around. That's the big thing, is getting them equally spaced. So I'm just going to go ahead and work on this. My soldering is not the best, but it just shows you don't have to be an expert solderer to pull something off and make it kind of glow, I guess. Now all the 10 LEDs are soldered. I'm going to untape it and see what it's looking like. Okay, so I have two copper rings with LEDs in between them. The inner copper ring is negative, the outer copper ring is positive. They'll touch the corresponding parts on the battery. The button battery and the holder, and I've soldered the one LED on that side. I can test these LEDs by pushing the negative to the inner ring and positive to the outer ring. So I'm just going to flip my battery down, make sure it touches properly, hold it down. It's been sitting for 24 hours, so I can take it out. Just gonna kind of clean this up a little bit. Alright, so I have the Bulsa wood back that's been painted. I put the button battery, fits in there nice and snug and tight, with the LED right here already soldered in place. I set my ring around the outside, and this is going to go here. That's what it's going to look like. The only thing I need to do now is solder a wire from this side is the negative to the inner ring, and solder a wire from the outside, or from the positive to the outside metal ring. Okay, so I need to solder from this positive part to the outside ring, and it's got to cross over this inside ring, which is negative, so I need to leave the insulation on this piece. Then I need to solder this negative end to the inside wire. Alright, so we have, this is the back of the arc reactor with the button battery. And it's just sitting in place here. I'll add some hot glue pretty soon, but this is the positive end and it goes to the outside ring, and the negative end is going to the inside ring. Now I should be able to put the battery in, and all the LEDs should light up. There. It's something you need to consider is, how do you want to line it up? This is your preference. You can put it like this, and then the LEDs are behind these transformers with air quotes. So the LEDs are behind the transformers. That makes it kind of an even blue color, but not if you look from the side, but there'll be something around the outside. So it could look like this, or if you prefer, you can put the LEDs between the transformers, and then you get these bright dots that shoot out. If you like this look, you can do that. You might want to do this if you plan on wearing it under your shirt because it's brighter. Another thing you can do is, this bracelet it's just the way it is when it comes out of the mold. You could take sandpaper to it and scratch it up. That diffuses the light if you prefer to not have these bright dots. Alright, so we're going to take our foam sheet, which is the thinner of the two types of foam we're going to need for this project. Here's the other one, it's thicker. Put the thicker one aside for now. Take this thinner one, and we're going to cut some strips out of it to put over our outer ring of our arc reactor for these transformers, or whatever they're called, the little black pieces that the copper wire will go on. So I laid it out on our pattern, and then I'm going to cut these strips out of the foam and lay them, super glue them over the arc reactor like this. Size is 1.5 inches long by 1/2 inch thick. When it's all done, looks like this. And then it'll sit on top of these like that. We're going to take our 3-inch PVC cleanout adapter. This is going to be the front of the arc reactor trim. This will sit inside of it. And so what we need to do is cut it so it's about this wide, like so. And you can cut that with a hacksaw or a Dremel tool. Then we'll just take sandpaper and clean this all up. Careful not to scratch up this part, because it's kind of got a shiny coat to it and it looks nice when you paint it. So just sand back here, don't sand up here. Alright, so you'll have to decide what you like. Do you want this to stick out a little bit when you're wearing it? Or do you prefer it set inside? However you like it is good. Just remember there's also going to be this cardboard back that's going to sit. Alright, so we can start working on this inside ring here. And so to do this, we will get our piece of cardboard, and this ring here, we'll trace the outside of it, or trace the inside of our clear ring. That'll be the outside of this piece we're working on. Now we can cut out the holes, and to do this I'm going to try something new this time. I went to Michael's and I got this hole punch. It's in the shape of a rectangle, so I'm going to see how this looks. I'm thinking of using this because cutting out these holes on the other one was the biggest pain in making this arc reactor. I'm just going to cut this inner circle out now. We also have some screws. Whatever screws you like are good. These are 10/24 by a half stainless socket cap screw. because I like the stainless color. They're a little bigger than what I used on this one, but it's all I could find when I went to the store. They also have some of these other ones that are not stainless. They're darker color and they're smaller. Sometimes you can find them smaller. You'll have to check out what your store has. These are M4 0.7 by 12 millimeter socket cap screws. I think I'm going to use these ones. I like to keep the screws shiny. I think it looks cool. So I'll keep this stainless steel shiny screws, and that's what I'll use with this. Also, I have a piece of, I don't know, stainless metal. This little piece came with a little circuit board thing I bought from radioshack, I think. But you can go to Home Depot. They sell all kinds of different thickness stainless sheets and other metal sheets. So just pick out anything you like. I drew these little shapes on here. I'm going to cut them out. They're going to be for these little metal pieces that go from the screw to the center ring. I'm just kind of winging it as far as the shape goes and the size. My specific size, I did about 1 centimeter at one end, and then they're about 1 centimeter before I kind of change the shape, and then they get skinnier. You'll see how that's going to fit in. I'll basically bend along this line, and I'll drill a hole in up here for the screws to go into. The size of the drill bit I'm going to use is, I think it's 5/32, so 5/32. Maybe you could use 3/16 or maybe an 1/8 inch bit, but I'm going to choose 5/32, and I'll drill some holes in here. Now, to cut these out, in the past I've just used tin snips, but they sometimes bend the metal and then you got to bend it back. Not a big deal, done it before, but this time I'm going to try a Dremel tool because I happen to have one, and we'll see how that goes. We are going to need a piece of the thick foam, and that's what these are all going to hook into, that thick foam. So we will trace so we're going to trace this onto the thick foam and cut out a piece of foam that size. We also need to cut out the center for this LED, just like the template here, cut out the center. Okay, another thing we're going to have to do is this is going to fit here, and you want it to fit really snug and flat. So these wires, you're going to cut a trough in the back for the wires to sit in, so that this can, see here, it's like sitting on those wires. It's kind of not laying flat. So cut a trough, a little line in the back for the wires to go through, so that this sits flatter and smaller. Alright, so we've cut lines in the back for the wires to sit. So when you set it on here, it sits a little more flat when you get it in the grooves. So this piece here, the screws are gonna go through it. So you just kind of really, since it's cardboard, I just push my way through. I use this little piece of template to kind of show me where to put the screws approximately. And then I just pushed my way through it. Alright, we're going to trim up these metal pieces to the proper size. What we're going to do is lay them out. And then we're going to take this inner ring and we're going to set it down in the center. And what we want to do it's not easy to do. But we don't want any metal sticking into the inside of this ring. So we want to trim the tips of these so that they don't extend inside. But we need it to touch the metal ring because we're going to super glue it there. So we need to cut off just enough so that it's not in the inside, but it's touching the ring. Alright, so these are trimmed to approximately the right size. Now we're going to do some painting. I'm using this spray paint from Walmart, metallic, this color. Alright, then we'll let those dry. This is one package worth of these key rings right here. We're not going to use the biggest size, so throw that aside. Then we'll use these three, and all three of them are going to get a copper or a gold color. We're actually going to use one more small one from a new pack, but that's not going to get painted. And we're going to paint these. They don't paint very well. Like, it peels off afterwards, so you just gotta be careful and touch it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. You won't be able to tell. If you have a gold spray paint, that'd work too. You could give them 2 coats. Once it dries, you could coat it again if you want. You just have to see how it turns out and what your preference is. These are going to be those copper rings on the inside. Okay, another part we're going to work on is the center of the arc reactor. Has this little screen there with the LED behind it. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the smallest key ring out of the pack. We're going to use this mold for the bracelet mold for making the outer ring. I got that on eBay. If you wanted to use something else, you could probably just use this thing that your wrapping wire came in and scratch it up, maybe. You just want to be able to diffuse the light, so whatever your preference is. What we're going to do is we're going to trace this size and we'll cut it out. I think I'll use this, and I'm even going to probably scratch this up to diffuse the light. This has to fit inside of this. So once again, just keep trimming it down until it's perfectly fits inside, nice and snug. So it fits perfectly inside there. Alright, then I'm going to cut a little piece of window screen that'll fit inside there as well. Okay, you want the window screen to be a little bit bigger. And then you're going to push it into this. You're going to push the little piece of plastic and the window screen inside the key ring so it's nice and snug. Alright, see how that is? It's pushed inside there. There's some overhang, that's fine. That's what it looks like. That's what you're going to do, but actually we're going to do it with the one that we painted. So, but this is just to test it out. You can also paint it after you put it in here if you want to. Okay, one more thing for this back and the button battery area. We want to throw some hot glue around this part. It's sitting in there nice and firm, but we just want to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm going to add a little hot glue around the outside. So just like that, some hot glue, just so that it doesn't fall out or get pushed out. So I didn't get the peel and stick by accident, so I'm going to super glue this velcro to the back of this arc reactor, but then you don't really want to go super gluing the other side to your chest when you wear it. So I'm going to stop at Home Depot again and get the peel and stick ones, because they don't harm my skin in the past when I wear it. So I'll just go get the peel and stick side like this, and then later on I can wear it just fine. So you want to cut a circle out of the velcro for this, about the size of this smallest keyring or size of the button battery. So I'll trace and cut that out. Okay, to make the copper for this, we will wrap, this is just some random piece of wood trim or something out of my garage. You could wrap it around whatever, or cut one piece at a time. I'm going to wrap copper wire around this, and then I'm going to cut it with a Dremel tool or with some snips and glue it onto the arc reactor. Alright, so I got a little bit wrapped here. Might be enough for all of the outer ring. What I'm going to do is take like my Dremel tool or a snips and cut this side and cut this side so that I have a little, almost like a staple, like I'm making staples, a little C, and that C then I can pull it off here and put it on to here. I'm gonna put some super glue along this because it helps. So it helps so that when I take it off, I get like many pieces at once. It'll just make things go faster, and in case they fall apart and I have to put them one by one, it takes longer. So I'll put some super glue and then I'm gonna cut it out. I'm gonna put a piece of tape maybe also, and then take the tape off afterwards. And I'll add some super glue to keep them in place. Alright, there you go, not too bad. You can see they don't actually wrap all the way around. You could wrap it if you want, whatever works for you. Underneath this, there's a wire that goes in there. So we're going to work on that now. You'll need a piece of this wire. Back to your template. It's going to go underneath that, so it's got to be about that big. Okay, then we need our copper wrapping wire. This is 24 gauge, but you could use whatever you wanted. So we're going to wrap the wire with wire. This is what it's looking like so far. Just wrapping it really tightly. Just wrap the wire really tightly all the way down. And then you can use it like that. Or if you want a easier way, if you have speaker wire, like big thick speaker wire, you can just take the end of the speaker wire You just want something kind of copper colored, I think, is my preference. So for this one, I might just use this. Just like it is. We'll see how it looks. One more thing. We have this piece now that's been painted. We put it over this. It doesn't have to be painted. You can do it before you paint. What we need to do is mark the screw holes. So I kind of extend it or push the screws in earlier. So there's the holes that are a little bigger. There's one here, here, and here. So I'm just going to mark them on this. It'd be good if these holes don't line up with the trough in the back. I should have checked that first. I didn't, but mine happened to not line up in the trough. It's not the end of the world if it does, but I think it's better if it doesn't. Yeah, so you can just poke the holes with a pencil. I think it's fine. That's where the screws are going to sit. Okay, so it's time for the final assembly. All the parts are here that I need. So to start out with, I just want to make sure that everything's still lined up and working good. The LEDs are nothing wrong with the LEDs. So I'm going to put this inside here for now. And then set it on here. Put my battery in and see what happens. Okay, so we tested the LEDs. We can work on this now. What we're going to do is put the screws through here. Then I'm going to put these in place. That's what we have so far. You can see how this is lining up. So you kind of don't want to be able to see where this connects there on the inside. So you could trim it off, or you can bend it back more so that this isn't on the inside. Like this one, it just comes up to it and it'll super glue it there. These ones kind of go on the inside. So you can turn them a little bit, bend it a little bit, and cut it a little bit if you need to. Then we can go ahead and actually super glue this one in place. We might want to put it over this and just verify. Yeah, so looking down on it, that's not over the center. You want the centers to match. So put your screws in the screw hole, and then make sure that the two center rings are like right over the top of each other. Alright, once that's super glued, you can turn this upside down, and we're going to super glue this gold ring right there. Okay, so this wire, you want to just, it's gonna, just so you can see it through these holes, you could do this, like bend around these screws. You could do 3 pieces, touching the screws and super glue them into place. Whatever works for you. I did mine different last time. I'm gonna do it like this, I think, this time. But it's actually gonna get super glued. I think I'm gonna super glue it onto here, and then put this into place. So then just put it all into place and push those screws in a little bit into the foam. Alright, so then on here we want to line up the troughs that we made with the wires. Make sure everything's lining up. Yeah, so things mostly line up pretty good. You can tell I didn't super glue this on yet, so you can go ahead and do that, but it's actually all fitting into place pretty tight. I had to shave down the edge here because it was a little too tight of a fit. So this is the end result. There's Velcro on the back, so if you put Velcro on your chest, you can stick it. You can make a contour to your chest to help it look more realistic, I guess. That's about it. I actually haven't super glued these into place because it's so tight fitting. I don't even think I'm gonna super glue it. But otherwise, just run some super glue along the edge here. And you can super glue this ring to the backing. But I've just shoved mine in and everything's so tight fitting it stays together. And that way, if you wanted to take it apart for something, it's pretty easy. You can just take it apart. There you have it.